We all go to theme parks with the hope of having a day filled with excitement, laughter, and fun with loved ones. However, what happens when something goes wrong? In this video, we're counting down the 25 worst theme park accidents in human history. These tales, which range from ride breakdowns and freak accidents to instances in which riders ignored safety instructions, are both shocking and tragic. Now we know that theme park enthusiasts may think that we're trying to scare you away from those thrilling rides, but don't worry, that's not our goal. We're not here to ruin your next vacation. Instead, we want to emphasize just how important safety and vigilance are when you're out having fun. Some of these rides are still operating today, which adds to the horror of these stories. Before we start, make sure you click the like button and subscribe to our channel if you want to see more fascinating and informative videos.
Here we go!
Let's get going now. The magnificent Big Dipper, a massive wooden roller coaster famed for its size and popularity, wowed guests at Omaha, Nebraska's Krug Park in 1930. It was not surprising that all four carriages were full of eager passengers on a warm summer evening. The mechanism began to lift them to the first slope when, all of a sudden, there was a loud crack of wood, a roaring noise, and then cries. After one of the cars had fallen off the tracks, it broke through the safety fence and fell from a height of 10 meters to the ground. However, this was only the start of a terrifying disaster. The hoist chain continued to operate, pulling the other three cars after the first one. One of the falling cars crushed 15-year-old Ruth Frau, the youngest victim. The Big Dipper turned into a heap of scrap metal, trapping some passengers. Thousands of people quickly gathered near the accident site, blocking the path for ambulances. To enable medical personnel to access the victims, the police had to breach a portion of the park barrier. Ultimately, 19 passengers were injured and 4 tragically lost their lives. Following an inquiry, the police discovered that one of the carriage's wheels had jammed as a result of a mechanical issue. Following this horrific event, the city of Omaha outlawed all roller coasters and closed Krug Park.
The worst theme park accident to ever occur in the UK. 5 children lost their lives in a grisly crash.
42 years later, in London's fabled Battersea Park, which opened 4 years ahead of Disneyland, a similar tragedy occurred. Strangely enough, the Big Dipper was the name of the roller coaster there as well. This giant wooden ride had been running successfully since 1951 until one of the deadliest roller coaster disasters ever happened in the middle of the day in 1972. The start of the British school holidays filled Battersea Park with excited kids and teenagers. They boarded the Big Dipper with a lot of anticipation, but the traction wire broke halfway up the first slope. The carriages descended quickly, gathering momentum with every second. The braking system failed, sending the cars flying off the tracks and colliding with one another, trapping dozens of people in the wreckage. Everything unfolded much like the disaster at Krug Park, except there were more casualties this time. 13 children suffered critical injuries and 5 children lost their lives. This tragic incident marked one of the darkest days in amusement park history. Every stage of the investigation revealed issues, detecting 66 violations overall. These included worn-out, nearly 50-year-old parts, a warped track, missing brakes, and an unmaintained traction cable. One of the passengers who survived the first crash also fell and died as a result of the deteriorated wooden emergency walkway. But the shocking findings didn't end there. The police discovered that the ride operators were under the influence of alcohol or drugs at the time of the accident. 2 years later, the theme park closed.
8 teens lost their lives one evening in May 1984 after becoming trapped in Six Flags Haunted.
The deadliest theme park disaster ever recorded occurred at Six Flags Great Adventures Haunted Castle in May 1984. The fire trapped and killed 8 teenagers, while 17 others were injured. The absence of a sprinkler system added to the fire's ferocity and allowed it to fully demolish the building. Despite the fact that the attraction was not up to code, it was discovered that the fire was the result of arson rather than anything wrong with the park or its employees. Six Flags was cleared of manslaughter charges.
Meanwhile, at Kings Island near Cincinnati, the investigation continues into 2 bizarre incidents that left 3 people dead.
On June 9, 1991, a tragedy occurred at Kings Island in Ohio when 3 people lost their lives in 2 different incidents. In one instance, Timothy Benning and William Hecko, 2 friends, were strolling near a pond with fountains in the park. Timothy was about to playfully splash William, but as soon as he touched the pond, he also fell into the shallow water. William hurried to help, but he met the same end. Park employee Daryl Robertson saw the unusual accident and hurried to help, but ended up getting hurt too. Investigators later discovered that all 3 had been struck by a powerful electric current that originated from a damaged wire in the fountain's submerged electric pump. Despite suffering severe injuries, Timothy Benning, the first to fall, lived to tell the tale. Sadly, 2 of his rescuers weren't as fortunate. This tragedy would have been avoided if the underwater equipment had been installed with a basic automatic switch. However, Kings Island was much more sorrowful that day. Candy Taylor, 32, chose to ride the Flight Commander attraction just before the park closed, about an hour after the pond incident. Candy Taylor was drunk at the time. She was tragically ejected from the carousel and fell 21 meters to her death. Candy was alone in the cabin, so the reason the seatbelts didn't work correctly is still unknown. Maybe she was attempting to catch a glimpse of the medical helicopter carrying the injured Timothy Benning. There was a waterslide in Kansas City's Schlitterbahn water park that defied logic. Despite having no past experience in this type of building, co-owner Jeff Henry and designer John Schooley set out to develop the largest and fastest water attraction in the world. Opting for a trial and error technique, they launched a ride in 2014 that could launch guests from about 51 meters. They called it Verrückt, which translates to crazy in German. 2 years later, one of the most horrifying accidents in the history of amusement parks happened. Together with their 4 sons, the Schwab family went to Schlitterbahn. They let their kids, Nathan 12 and Caleb 10, ride down the highest water slide at the park because they trusted the safety precautions. The rest of the family waited below while the boys climbed up. Caleb went first, hitting a speed of almost 113 kilometers an hour as he descended nearly straight down. His raft abruptly took off and collided with a metal net meant to keep him safe. Sadly, instead of protecting Caleb, the impact was so severe that he was beheaded as he crashed into the support structure. His mother and brothers were waiting for him by the pool when his body and head tumbled down. The terrifying story shook everyone involved so deeply that authorities closed the slide immediately, and after years of investigation, they eventually demolished it. Shockingly, authorities did not charge or punish anyone for the incident, despite Caleb Schwab's tragic death and his father's position as a state representative for Kansas.
Dream World. As one of the most common theme park rides in the world, river rapids are widely regarded as
tragically a family-friendly river ride at Dream World amusement park in Gold Coast, Queensland, Australia, turned deadly. The Rapid River Ride, well known for its family-friendly entertainment, had stylized banks where visitors rode in unique circular rafts. The ride was considered safe, with a 45 km/h speed limit and lasting around 4 minutes. However, a disaster occurred in October of 2016. As one of the rafts carrying 6 passengers approached its final destination on the route, it came upon an empty raft stopped in its path. Kate Goodchild and another passenger threw their children aside. The next moment, the rescued girl and boy were screaming hysterically because their mothers were dying right in front of their eyes. In the incident, 4 adults suffered injuries and fell into the river. In an effort to free passengers who were stuck, park officials quickly stopped the ride and emptied the water. Sadly, none of them survived. Kate Goodchild's brother and her partner were also killed in the incident. 2 weeks before the catastrophe, another park visitor left a critical evaluation of Dreamworld, pointing out numerous mechanical problems with different rides. She even raised safety concerns, mentioning that a seatbelt came undone mid-air during a ride. Sadly, her fears proved true. Following the event, Thunder River Rapids was closed indefinitely. The investigation determined that the accident was due to inadequate maintenance and insufficient staff training. Despite these findings, no one was arrested or held responsible for the tragedy.
Action Park.
There's nothing in the world like Action Park.
The most infamous theme
In American history, the tidal wave pool, commonly referred to as the grave pool at Action Park, is notorious. Of course, Action Park operated in New Jersey for most of the 1980s. It was well known for having minimal health and safety regulations and for having extremely risky attractions. The most infamous ride at Action Park's the Cannonball Loop didn't last long enough to cause any fatalities. However, the tidal wave pool was so dangerous that it caused at least 2 fatalities and necessitated the 24-hour presence of 12 lifeguards in order to rescue people. Surprisingly, the wave pool remains operational as part of Mountain Creek, Action Park's replacement, but with significant safety modifications. It's not the same now. A lot of people believe that drowning in the wave pool at Action Park was just part of the experience. Adventureland in Farmingdale near New York had operated for 43 years without a single tragic incident until 2005. First, a tragic event struck when an 18-year-old park employee was crushed under mysterious circumstances on a children's roller coaster. The youngster was run over by the cars when he fell onto the rails. 3 days later, 45-year-old park visitor Barbara Brady was the victim of yet another horrific tragedy. She decided to ride the Top Scan attraction, a windmill with 6 blades and 5 seats fixed on each. Barbara weighed about 113 kilograms, but a park employee told her that there were no weight restrictions for the ride. Barbara was thrown from her seat as the carousel started moving. The operator immediately stopped the attraction and called for help. The woman was thrown over the more than 7.5-meter tall park wall and fell on the windshield of a parked automobile, and she was killed instantly. Despite clinging to life for a few minutes after the fatal blow, the cause of the accident was still unknown. A built-in mechanism on the ride itself prevents it from running unless every seatbelt is safely fastened. Additionally, there was no visible damage to Barbara's seat, adding to the mystery surrounding her tragic fall. The incident's investigation revealed unclear results. Adventureland appeared to be unharmed by the horrific events, even though Top Scan was closed indefinitely. 2 best friends, Rod Cho and David Seeger, set out on an exciting journey to ride the M-Bender. It's the world's largest indoor roller coaster, which stood at 44 meters high with a triple loop at Canadian Fantasyland in June 1986. Arriving just in time, they secured the last 2 seats at the end of the carriage. Everything seemed normal when the ride began, but during the first loop, Rod noticed their car rocking strangely. He held onto the safety bar tightly, but it couldn't prevent him from flying out during the next sharp turn. The situation worsened when at the 3rd loop, the last car detached from the others, slowed down, and collided with the concrete support. Miraculously, Rod regained consciousness a minute later, completely confused about how he'd been thrown from the roller coaster. Rod Cho struggled to stand up, breathing hard and experiencing pain all over his body. It took rescuers 15 minutes to reach him, and when they did, the medical professionals were shocked by the severity of his injuries. His legs were shattered, the ribs on one side were nearly all broken, and he suffered fractures to his pelvis, shoulder, and a punctured lung. Learning to walk again took 6 exhausting months of rehabilitation. He was terribly upset by the news of the deaths of a young, engaged couple and his buddy David Seeger. Investigators discovered that missing bolts on a wheel caused the tragedy. Mindbender was closed for several months for repairs and maintenance. After reopening, it delighted guests until it was closed for park upgrades in the winter of 2023, guaranteeing future riders' safety.
Wooden roller coasters technically aren't more dangerous than modern steel ones. That is, as long as they're properly looked.
Revere Beach Derby Racer. As long as they receive the necessary maintenance, wooden roller coasters aren't necessarily any riskier than modern steel ones. Many aren't, and throughout the years, this has resulted in numerous unpleasant accidents, including 2 horrifying crashes of a wooden roller coaster at Boston's Revere Beach. The Derby Racer, perhaps the most well-known and hazardous coaster, caused 5 separate deaths over the years when it threw riders from the trains. Ultimately, it was demolished in 1936. Lightning, another attraction at Revere Beach, was only in operation for 6 years, barely 2 days before taking the life of a park visitor. In 1933, it was shut down.
Sydney. Luna Park in Sydney, Australia became the home of Australia's deadliest theme park attraction in 1979.
The burning down of the ghost train at Luna Park in Sydney, Australia, late one evening in 1979, made it the site of Australia's deadliest theme park attraction. In addition to destroying the ride completely, the fire trapped people within it, leaving 7 people dead. Even though there was no chance of it reopening, the tragedy shocked Australia, and witnesses and survivors are still pushing for a thorough probe into the incident. It's still not known how the fire started, though some have speculated firebombing. Numerous people have also asserted that police at the time failed to conduct a thorough investigation and might have even been corrupt. Former senior police officers claim that Abe Saffron, the crime boss, was at fault. Such claims need to be verified with solid evidence to find out the truth. In July 2017, 18-year-old cousins Travis and Mitch Taylor from Ohio declared the Fireball ride their favorite. This attraction raised riders to a height of 12 meters while it swung around like a pendulum. After more than 9 years of tradition, the cousins showed up to the Ohio State Fair on July 26th, eager to ride the Fireball. But perhaps a snack break along the way would have prevented their deaths. Moments later, their cherished ride abruptly slammed into a concrete pillar. The force of the hit ripped out an entire row of seats. A number of people fell more than 6 meters to the ground as a result of their safety belts breaking. The accident caused injuries to 7 people and resulted in the death of 1 passenger. Fireball was immediately shut down, not only at the Ohio State Fair, but also at all amusement parks throughout the state. The owners didn't want to take any chances, so they held the ride's manufacturers accountable for the unfortunate event. Attracting around 1 million visitors annually, the Ohio State Fair continues to be among the biggest in the country. A terrifying incident involving one of Disneyland's attractions, the famous Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, occurred in September 2003. Tragic events occurred on September 6th while the trip was designed to be family-friendly and resemble a picturesque canyon. As people-filled carriages continued on their usual route, disaster struck unexpectedly inside a dark, narrow tunnel. The first car unexpectedly crashed, blocking the path and trapping the terrified travelers. Some managed to escape, but others sustained severe injuries that led to desperate screams for assistance. Ambulances and firefighters raced to the area, but it was difficult to get to the victims. Initially, the tunnel was too small for special equipment, so rescuers had to manually release the passengers. The rescue operation stretched nearly an hour, resulting in the tragic loss of one passenger and injuries to 10 others, including a 9-year-old child. The attraction was swiftly closed for an investigation and later reopened after safety measures were reviewed. At Sweden's oldest theme park, Gröna Lund, a disaster happened on June 25, 2023, when the Jetline roller coaster malfunctioned. Carrying 14 riders, one of the roller coaster trains derailed and partially came off the tracks. Witnesses reported that the derailment flung some passengers from the train. In an unbelievable act, rescuers had to save one man as he hung onto the rail. Tragically, one person lost their life in the incident, while others sustained injuries and needed medical attention at the hospital. The incident generated widespread outrage, which forced immediate investigations into the cause of the amusement park derailment. What happened after the Jetline roller coaster accident in Gröna Lund? The circumstances surrounding the Jetline roller coaster disaster at Gröna Lund, Sweden, are still unknown as of 2024. A broken support arm is believed to have caused the cart's derailment, according to investigators. They still haven't determined the precise cause, though. The roller coaster will remain closed for the 2024 theme park season due to ongoing investigations and safety concerns. The purpose of this decision is to protect the safety of the visitors and to stop any further accidents until the coaster's safety is completely guaranteed. The Chinese Eco Venture Valley in Shenzhen holds a captivating yet mysterious attraction known as Space Journey, a 24-meter dome that houses a space rocket launch simulator. This unique ride allowed 40 passengers in 10 separate cabins to experience twice the acceleration of Earth's gravity on a rotating device. But disaster struck in July 2010 when a horrific accident left 10 people injured and 6 dead. With conflicting witness testimonies, the occurrence is still mysterious. Prior to the collision, several passengers claimed hearing explosions, while others reported a power failure. Even after police and park staff conducted investigations, the precise reason behind the accident remained a mystery. The attraction has remained closed since the incident. The destiny of Space Journey continues to intrigue people fascinated by amusement park mysteries. If you're enjoying this video and want to see more content like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Your support helps us bring you more exciting stories. Now, back to the countdown.
Fujin Raijin 2, Expo Land. Once one of Japan's premier amusement parks, Osaka's Expo Land
Fujin Raijin 2, Osaka's Expo Land, one of the country's top theme parks, provided years of entertainment for tourists before a catastrophic disaster in 2007. When a standing coaster on Fujin Raijin 2 crashed, a 19-year-old college student died. Besides the deaths, many more were injured, several of which required hospital treatment. What led to the crash? The park had ignored the ride for 15 years, and the axles, which never changed, eventually could no longer support the weight. Expo Land was never able to recover from the catastrophe because no one wanted to visit anymore. Less than 2 years later, in 2009, the entire park closed permanently.
Perilous Plunge, Knott's Berry Farm. In 2001, the Perilous Plunge flume ride at Knott's Berry Farm.
Perilous Plunge, Knott's Berry Farm. Just 1 year after it launched in 2000, the Perilous Plunge flume attraction at Knott's Berry Farm in California was the cause of a deadly accident in 2001. In an incident that damaged the ride's reputation for years afterward, a woman managed to escape her shackles and plunged to her death. However, the attraction didn't close right away. For the next 11 years, it was beset by a number of technical problems before being shut down and destroyed in 2012. The park's attempts to improve the ride's safety only led to additional issues in other sectors. Fortunately, though, no one else died.
Land. The Mind Scrambler in Playland, New York, claimed 2 lives during its tenure in the park, with the latter
Mind Scrambler Playland. During its existence in Playland, New York, the Mind Scrambler claimed the lives of 2 people. The last of these was a Playland employee who had worked there her entire life. An employee neglected safety procedures and started the ride, ejecting Gabriela Guerin from it. At the time, Guerin was attempting to assist riders with their restraints. The identical manner in which a 7-year-old child passed away just 3 years prior led to the implementation of those safety measures to prevent the tragedy from happening again. The reasons for why the rules weren't strictly followed remain unclear, but the 2 fatalities forced the Scrambler's permanent closure. On March 24, 2022, a 14-year-old boy died in another horrific amusement park accident at Icon Park after falling while riding the Orlando Freefall. The boy's seat broke its lock and he tumbled out. The Orlando Freefall roller coaster earned the title of the largest freestanding drop tower in the world at 430 feet tall. Due to the incident, authorities closed down the neighboring ride known as Orlando Slingshot, reopening it in May 2023 while dismantling the Orlando Freefall. Other amusement parks briefly suspended similar attractions from the same manufacturer. Dollywood's Drop Line in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee remained closed until authorities conducted the necessary inquiries. Terminal Velocity, Wisconsin, Lake Dalton. A 12-year-old girl at Wisconsin Dells Extreme World Amusement Park made the bold decision to ride the Terminal Velocity roller coaster in the summer of 2010. The family had made the long journey from their Florida home to check it out for her. The roller coaster operated by dropping riders more than 100 feet into a net without the use of any safety straps. Tragically, the operator accidentally released her without a net in place. She fell directly onto the concrete, breaking her back and pelvis, and suffered numerous severe injuries, including brain damage. She somehow made it through. The girl, named Tegan, spent 2 months at a local hospital before she recovered enough to go home. Her parents took legal action, alleging carelessness on the part of the ride operator. Later, the park and the family came to a settlement. Darien, New York, hosts the Ride of Steel. James Hackemer, 29, fell from the Ride of Steel at a Six Flags amusement park in New York on July 8, 2011. During the Iraq War, the U.S. Army veteran suffered double amputee injuries, losing both legs. He was thrown forcibly out of the car while he was seated in the front row and had no legs to put beneath the lap belt. Following a comprehensive examination, authorities determined that operator error was the reason behind Hackemer's demise. Even though the attraction was running smoothly at the time, Hackemer should never have been allowed to ride it in the first place. It's quite clear that someone without legs can't meet the safety rules that demand passengers' legs be secured before the ride starts. The attraction was shut down for 2 weeks following this unfortunate and deadly error before it was opened again. California's Anaheim is home to the Matterhorn. Many of us are familiar with the rides where certain accidents occur. Although the Disneyland Matterhorn roller coaster appears to be safe, it's frightening how easily rides may go wrong if safety precautions aren't taken. On January 3, 1984, a 48-year-old woman was thrown from one of the bobsled cars. She was instantly decapitated when the bobsled struck her. After the horrifying accident, the investigators found that the woman had not fastened her seatbelt. Nobody still knows if the buckle broke mid-ride or if she unfastened it on purpose. Sailing ship Columbia in Anaheim, California. A large metal cleat broke off from the side of the sailing ship Columbia amusement ride on December 24, 1998. When it fell, it hit 2 park visitors and 1 Disney cast member. One of the visitors, a 33-year-old man, was critically injured in the head and passed away in the intensive care unit. It was the first ever death from a Disneyland attraction where the victim wasn't at least somewhat to blame. Investigators discovered that park authorities had substituted the securing rope with the wrong material to save money. The ship broke loose because it had reached the dock too quickly, and the cleat wasn't designed to slow it down. Investigators judged that the park held responsibility for the inadequate training of the ride operator rather than blaming the ride itself. If he had received the required training, he would have been aware that the ship was to be reversed and approach the dock at a slower speed. The victim's family won an estimated $25 million in a settlement against the park. Extreme in Louisiana's Baton Rouge. Roller coasters' tremendous height adds extra excitement, but it also makes them extremely risky. Lindsay Zeno visited the Blue Bayou Water Park Dixieland Amusement Park on July 11, 2010. She boarded the Extreme coaster, which had been running for almost 3 years. A few minutes later, she died from her wounds after falling 30 feet from the coaster. Witnesses said they saw Zeno attempting to pull the safety restraint back over her head when the coaster turned abruptly, sending her hurtling through the air. The subsequent investigation did not identify the cause of the accident. It simply addressed the question of whether or not the safety mechanism had been incorrectly secured in the first place. Following the event, the ride was closed indefinitely. Karachi, Pakistan is home to Askari Amusement Park. An accident occurred in a park in Karachi, Pakistan on July 15, 2018. In the middle of an operation, a roller coaster that threw passengers off by swinging them back and forth from a large pendulum broke down. The collapse injured 25 people and claimed the life of a 12-year-old girl. The roller coaster's terrible failure stunned the park to its core. It had only been open for a month before the disaster, and it took 6 months for park officials to feel safe enough to open again. In conclusion, even though the entertainment sector cheers up millions of people every year, it's critical to understand that unforeseen accidents can still happen, even in the presence of robust safety precautions. The tragic incidents that take place at amusement parks every year serve as a reminder of the risks that come with trying to find happiness and excitement. The continuous improvement of safety protocols is crucial to avoiding such events in the future. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and stay safe out there.